Well, have a good one. Today's March 12th. It's week number 9 of the legislative session, and it's my Tuesday sort of wrap up what's going on here in Olympia. We're doing it now in the chamber, and right now we're on lunch break, which I will be in a minute too. But let me tell you what's going on. We had a bill yesterday. It passed here, but I know it's going to die in the Democratic House, that would limit the effect of Seattle's paid sick leave bill. They only do this to Seattle. They don't pick on Spokane, okay? They just pick on Seattle. We have a law, City Council passed it in 2012, or went into effect 2012. It says employers in the city of Seattle are required to give some amount of paid sick leave. It's paid for by, I think it's a penny or so per hour on the employee's pay. It builds up an account that allows the person to have paid sick leave. Most sick leave goes unused, okay? It's really the emergency, the medical care for oneself or one's family that really means most. And it's a way that employers, frankly, attract a more thoughtful and productive workforce. So anyway, it's a good bill. But this being a Republican-dominated Senate, we're out to limit anything Seattle does. We have a phrase around here: Republicans against Democrats, House against the Senate, everybody against Seattle, all right? What this current bill did is to say that an employer is governed by this only if their place of business is physically in the city of Seattle and not for any employee who is only a visitor to it. That is to say, if it's an outside company that may be in the suburbs or maybe Eastern Washington, could be anywhere, but that say does business by sending somebody to do sales calls, that person is not covered unless they have some inordinate number of hours that they work in Seattle. I think it's some like 6 weeks out of the year. Even though the company may sell hundreds of thousands or $1 million worth of its merchandise or its services in the city of Seattle, competing with other Seattle businesses who do pay this. In other words, putting itself at a competitive disadvantage with Seattle companies. That, I believe, is the real intent of this, okay? We're going to talk about whether paid sick leave is a good policy. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to allow out of Seattle companies that do business in Seattle to have a competitive advantage over their Seattle-based competitors. But we're talking about policy as if this bill were about policy. We're talking about all sorts of, job-killing, burdensome, heavy, impossible tasks for business to take on. Well, it's not, actually. A lot of businesses, when Seattle passed this ordinance, already had it. And the reason they had it is that's a better way to treat your staff. You get more productivity on a strictly business relationship. Just forget how happy people are. They're more productive. And your paycheck goes further in terms of work. Well, our Republican friends don't get that. And they pretend to be the representatives of business in this body, but I got to tell you, most business people are way ahead of these guys. That's the news on that issue. Let me talk to you because this is the day before what's called cutoff, the mid-year cutoff, and I'll explain that. The bill that has to get out by tomorrow at 5 o'clock. It's now about noon on Tuesday. Wednesday, 5 o'clock, if this bill doesn't get out of the House, it dies. And you bet it, that's about guns. It's House Bill 1588. It's the House version of my bill, whose number I forget, but it's 5711. My bill died in what's now called the Law and Justice Committee in the Senate because Republicans don't want to talk about guns. The House bill, as of now, is still alive. It's on the floor. Word has it that the representatives who are focusing on this bill are getting the votes as best they can. There are some Republican votes that are there, 2 very gutsy Republicans, one of whom is a police officer. One of whom, by the way, has a district in Walla Walla and is showing a whole lot of courage by voting for this bill. But in any case, it has to get out tomorrow or it's dead for the year. This is an issue in which we have fought tooth and nail. we are trying to prevent in Seattle or in Washington State, anywhere, an event like that happened in Connecticut in December. We have murders, we have gun crimes of all types, burglaries, rapes, assaults. We don't need to have more gun crime. These guys cannot understand that the easy access to guns by people who already under current law ought not to have them, felons, and the dangerous mentally ill. I don't mean all mentally ill, I mean those who are dangerous and have been adjudged by a judge to be dangerous to self or others, should not have possession and already are barred from possession by current law. But in the absence of background checks, there are no questions asked, and those folks get the guns. Well, we'll find out in about a day and 4 hours whether that bill made it. That's the news from Lake Wobegon. Y'all take care.